Okay, so welcome to in-person coaching session with Annabelle. So Annabelle's business so far has grown quite rapidly. We've gone from 2.5K per month to over 20K per month. And there's actually been a lot of limitations to get us to this point in terms of Annabelle working full-time, 9 to 5, also doing a lot of the coaching herself. So we're now at a point where we can really look at like the next stage of the business where Annabelle is now transitioned fully online to her business. She also has 2 coaches working underneath her to help facilitate the clients and the growth of the business. So we're now probably for one of the first times in a position where we can really like put our foot down and scale as much as we want to. So today's session is going to be talking with Annabelle about current constraints in the business, what we can do to solve them, and a strategy to look to double the business from 20K to 40K, 50K, and so on. So Annabelle, question for you to start with, which I think as a CEO is probably it is the most important thing that you can do, and I'll help you do it if maybe nothing comes to mind for you. If I was to say what right now in the business is the biggest constraint, or actually let's go instead, what would you identify as a few constraints currently in the business from where you are at 20K to hitting 30, 40, 50K, whether that's with, still it could be your time, it could be sales, it could be leads. Does anything specific stand out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and one of the things that we've spoken about quite a lot, is kind of how it's from a time perspective. You know, some weeks the leads will be, coming in, the calls will be getting booked, and everything will be going, well. And I think this is quite normal, but then the second week it can kind of completely die down. And so I think from a time perspective, I think just I'd say probably the consistency of leads, because I'm doing everything at the moment. So obviously everything from the ads to the DMs to the sales calls, etc. I struggle when I'm super busy in those busy weeks to then plan ahead, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of screwing myself over for the next week. So I think if I could summarize the one main issue with how we're operating at the moment, it would probably be that.
Okay, cool. And then outside of that, would there be any other kind of things that come to mind for you in terms of a constraint with? It could be from like the coaching side, with like the coaches working underneath you. It could be overall structure, just looking at the business. Like, is there anything specific that stands out, or do you put it down to like, it's probably just my time with the lead side of things is the main?
I would probably say the time aspect, but then when you're looking at kind of how we generate those leads, I think the time then leads on to obviously marketing the business. And I think from an ads perspective as well, and from awareness perspective, like I've got quite a small following. I've got under 5K followers. Do you know what I mean? So I think from constantly getting new leads coming in, I think that can be tricky. And I also don't think I've quite mastered content overall yet as well, in terms of being consistent with it. But I also think that comes down from me just being up and down quite a lot.
All right. So you feel that like when it's a busy week, sales calls are flying in, referrals are flying in, inquiries, there could be then, because you're doing everything yourself, it's almost like not a non-negotiable to get all the other stuff done. Would that be fair? Okay, cool. So I would always say for you, it's like for you to identify what you need to focus on the most day to day, outside of everything that you do with like check-ins with the coaches, with sales calls. It's what is the biggest constraint right now, which is causing the most economic impact to the business. So if we put that down to maybe leads, probably like initial awareness, like lead nurturing in the DMs, like that would probably be it.
I mean, there's loads of stuff, but I'd say that's probably one of the top ones. That
would be one of the top ones. So then let's speak about how your mindset is around getting someone on board to help with that, whether it's VA, whether it's someone kind of coming in to do the DMs. I know we've had a lot of discussions about it. So maybe for someone listening who could be in a similar position too, where they're doing the DMs currently themselves, I know for you there's like, you kind of want to keep doing it yourself, get to a certain point because you've taken 2 coaches on board before you do. Just talk to me about your mindset and your way of thinking.
My mindset is very like up and down with it constantly, because I'm very much aware that I'm probably in the long term missing out on business because of my kind of bad weeks.
Yeah.
You know, those weeks where I'm doing all the sales calls, you know, I still coach 55 clients myself.
Yeah.
So from a time perspective, I know I'm missing out on all of that. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I go back through my DMs and I don't reply to a lot of it. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like and I'm being completely honest here. So I think from that perspective, I'm probably losing out on a fair bit there.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm obviously in the other camp where on a good week I can manage it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, and you know, when you've got 2 coaches as well,
Yeah.
you know, obviously the financial impact of that as well, you've got to be measured about it.
Yeah,
So I think I'm very much, I mean, you know my stance on it, but I'm very much kind of like 50-50 at the moment about kind of whether to invest into a VA to get some help with that.
And would that be the main, so would your biggest holdback or resistance from it be thinking from like a financial perspective, like, geez, like all of a sudden I have myself, I have 2 coaches, I'd be adding would it be kind of almost like the overwhelm or maybe the nervousness that comes with that? Like, would that be your main?
Yeah, I think you've got to think of like the profitability of the business as well, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? You don't want to get silly with, you know, growing a massive, great big team and then having that extra pressure. But then I also think that the only way to ever grow to the levels that we want to is to invest.
Yeah.
So I think it's that. I think also, I'll be completely honest, I have heard horror stories about some VAs, and I think that's what concerns me a little bit, because obviously when you're making that kind of investment and you trust in someone else with your business, there's that extra kind of barrier there as well. So I think that's been in the back of my mind as well.
And would you, if I told you send, let's say if you're sending like 30 DMs a day, would you feel like you do it sparingly, or would you feel like it is a non-negotiable for like that initial message, or like where do you think you are from that like point of view?
What do you mean?
In terms of like getting it done, would you say like, oh yeah, I'm actually quite consistent with like at least doing that like initial outbound, or no? Okay, cool. No,
I definitely, I think I will. Yeah, I don't think I'm very consistent with the X amount per day. And I think I very much go with like the feelings of the day. And I know that's what's catching me out the next week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the more I think about it, the more I know what I need to do. But like, I think on a good day, yeah, of course, I'll bash 30 a day out. But then, you know, when you've got sales calls and check-ins, et cetera, coaching calls, with your team, suddenly that can just go to the bottom of the pile. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so what I want to speak about is how can we maybe help the constraint without throwing like all the money at it?
Yeah.
So like, what can we do which, from a financial perspective, is making a difference what you can bring in, but it's also not like just throwing everything at it. Like we're paying, you know, a huge fee to get someone in full time. It's like, how could we start a process where you can see the return from it and then move forward? Yeah. So like what I would say for you initially, where your mindset's at, I would hold back from saying, let's get someone in to do everything for you. Yeah. Because you're looking at a bigger payment. Yeah. But if we won't know even like initial work that a VA could be doing for you, like initial outbound messages, if we just got someone in to do that non-negotiable for you, because it's almost getting you to the point where your DMs are so busy, where you say to me like, geez, VA's in there, I can't believe how many people are interested in, like, in the coaching, booking in loads of calls. Yeah. And then you'll get to a point of like, okay, it's a no-brainer for me to get someone to manage DMs. Yeah, sure, yeah. I think probably where you're at now, you'll only push it when you can push it and you feel like you need to. So then there'll be a part in your mind where it never becomes like a necessity. Yeah. So it's almost, the way I get you to almost see it is like, sometimes there can be coaches and they won't get a coach on board because they're like, oh, like the lead flow isn't that busy. So they're like, oh, lead flow isn't that busy. I'm like, well, the lead flow isn't that busy because you're coaching by yourself and you're not pushing things.
Circle, isn't it? Yeah.
Pushing yourself up. Yeah. So if you kind of like set yourself a goal, and this is where I think the benefit of a CEO comes in again. Not the benefit, sorry, but like the role of you as a CEO would be wearing different hats at different times. Mm-hmm. So what I would get you to see maybe this last month and the month before, you're very much in like the coach hat, which is coaching your team. Mm-hmm. So you had 2 coaches coming on board. How are they getting on? How are they managed? How are you training them? And now if you're in a position where like, hey, like obviously I'm still working with them and making sure they're improving, but I'm pretty happy with that they're at. Yeah. So then I'd say to you, okay, what could be your biggest focus now? And if the goal wasn't to hire someone in fully for your DMs yet, I would set yourself a challenge, because I know you're competitive, of the month of February, for example, I'm going to get as good at my DMs as possible in terms of booking calls.
Yeah.
I'm going to set myself that target.
Yeah.
Outside of my clients, doing sales calls, managing coaches, I want to be like shit hot at like DMs that I just crush it.
Yeah.
And if you set yourself that goal, you get a VA and like facilitate that. So you're like, hey, I know based on past experience, me sending 30, 40 messages a day, it's not going to be a non-negotiable. If I'm hiring a VA, they're going in early morning doing that for me. They're doing nothing else. And now I'm looking at the DMs and it's quite busy and I'm the one doing all the replies. It's going to obviously make you get a lot better. It's going to make you do a lot more. And if in the back of your mind, you know, it's not like I think probably as well why you haven't replied to people or you haven't been consistent with it is if it feels like it's never ending and you're like, this isn't something that I'm passionate about or I want to do, you'll never end up doing it.
Yeah.
But if you said, okay, this is just literally for 1 month, I'm going to like get as good as I can.
Yeah.
You go into that role, you see, oh my God, like with a VA doing that consistently every day, I can clearly see the difference.
Yeah.
And now February ends and you're like, wow, if I could get someone in, even it could be the VA, it could be someone else. If I get someone in to now do all the replies, if I get one sign up, I've made a return on investment.
Yeah.
Based on me doing that for so long, I can clearly see that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you pull yourself out of the player hat where you were doing everything and you're like, okay, now let me train someone in based.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I've done it over the last one.
It's probably also my least favorite thing to do, and which is obviously coming out like probably my favorite is like the sales calls and actually that initial contact with the client.
Yeah.
And I hate the DM side of things, so that's probably why I'm obviously putting it to the bottom of the pile as well. Do you know what I mean? So.
And I know we spoke about this before, but something that I love to do as well is like cost versus opportunity cost.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like you weighing up, okay, so the cost of me getting someone in is X amount.
Yeah.
Let's just say, we'll just say X amount. Then opportunity cost. If I said to you, do you think with someone like consistently sending X amount of messages a day, someone in your account doing DMs, doing the follow-ups where you're missing the messages, do you think that you could get one client a week from that? And you'd probably say, at least I could get one.
Yeah.
And then if we multiply that by 4, the difference between the cost of getting someone, you've probably 5, 6, even more X the investment.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's how I'd always weigh up the decision.
Yeah.
And as well, what I think is important for us to know is like, we always want to make decisions which make sense and smart for the business, but don't be afraid to try things out as well.
Yeah.
I know you can take a backward step.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me before where I got someone in to do sales calls for my fitness business. And then like the closing rate just like started like tanking, lost money and I had to fix the problem. So like, don't be afraid of, obviously we'll always do our due diligence that we make a right decision. But if we don't be like, as you know, with the coach,
try it, it doesn't work.
Basically.
Yeah.
To be able to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
So now from like, so let's say we have the VA and they're consistently doing outbound. In the short term, you're doing replies. If we were to look at like a low cost ad strategy that you could be doing, which I know we focus on a bit. So if we see funnel and we have people kind of coming in top of funnel, so that's like new followers coming through. I think probably what they're missing out on the most right now is how they're going to be nurtured over time.
Yeah.
But maybe, I know you're usually good for messaging new followers, but sometimes maybe people not being messaged or the conversations not being done as thoroughly as possible.
I think I'm good with new followers.
Yeah, that's
but then
easier
after
too.
that, I'm not good. Do you know what I mean? Like all the nurturing, the follow up, etc. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
And I'm fully aware that that's a problem.
Yeah. So what I would even say to you with like new followers coming through and like what the goal is. So obviously the goal is for us to like, okay, so someone comes in, new follower, top of funnel.
Yeah.
What we need to remember is they don't know you, like you, or trust you yet.
Yeah.
Because they've just come into your page. That being said, there is going to be some outliers who will be ready to buy from you straight away.
Yeah.
Where I know that's happened in the past. You message someone, they see your physique, they see your results, they say they're interested. Great. But for the large portion of everyone else, do we have another strategy in place to nurture them so eventually they become warmer? So one is just for me through your content, which you're good for always showing up on your stories, showing up on your posts. So they will get that like side of you pretty quickly where they get to know you. But could we also treat the conversations that we aim for an outcome out of all of them? So if they're not booking in for a call, do we get them onto your email list, for example, where you're sending them a lead magnet?
Yeah.
And if we focus on building out like a welcome series, which could be 20, 24 emails, like to be honest, as short as 5, but I think it's something we can build out over time. And we know, okay, new followers are coming in. we're messaging them. There will be some people who will book in for a call straight away. For the vast majority of everyone else, send them value, get them on your email list, and get them nurtured outside of your Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And the way I want you to see it is I kind of see email not as like email versus social media or versus Instagram, but see it as all like a combining effect. Because let's say you get a new follower through, conversation is really going anywhere. You offer the lead magnet, she does it.
Yeah.
And then let's say 5 weeks later, you put up a story, sticker tap about like a CTA for coaching, and that lady taps on it. You will be like, oh, she came through Instagram story.
Yeah.
But who knows? She might have got an email from you that day where you were like storytelling, you were going into like a lot about, because I think on email, the beauty of it, you should talk to them like the person's your friend.
Yeah.
So I know you're quite good at that on Instagram either, but I'd even get like a deeper connection, open up even more to people on email so they really get a sense of who you are.
Yeah.
And they've replied to your sticker tap, but they could have also been hugely sold and nurtured through the email.
Definitely. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I would want us to do, which I think the next step is, we'll get a VA in to send that initial outbound.
Yeah.
We'll set like a target every day that they have to do. For the moment, we'll keep you doing the replies.
Yeah.
Just in the short term. And again, you could get back to me after a week or two and say, I want someone sooner than I thought. Probably going to happen. And make sure we have a lot of people coming in top of funnel. So we're running a new follower ad, and like we spoke about, the goal there is just to give value, build credibility, because there's so many people that are going to be selling to them all over social media.
Yeah.
Can we just show up, give value, get them onto your page?
Yeah.
And then with the people on your page, so someone else could say to you, like, go straight in with value, which I get, but I think because you've had success with signing up people up before, I still want to give you that opportunity. So if we start with a new follower message where it's open to seeing, are they working towards a fitness goal? Are they here for the content? We'll keep that in.
Yeah.
But if we know if they're just here for the content, or they're not really opening up to the level we want, send them value, get them nurtured on email, plus nurtured through your Instagram, and then the stage of converting them is going to be so much more.
And I think that's the bit that I'm completely missing out of the business at the moment.
Because we get new followers and we hope they'll be interested right away. And if they're not, we're like.
And I feel like this is the difference now between like where I'm at now at the 20 or 8 months, and then the next bracket. I think this is where this will come from.
100%. And that's the thing, like that with business and like you growing it and scaling, sometimes it is us adopting a new strategy.
Yeah.
Also times it's like, okay, I'm doing something to a certain level. Could I do it better? Could I optimize it?
Yeah.
Could I improve it? Could I do more of it?
Yeah.
Like we'll say yes to all those things. So that then it's like, and then let's say we get the VA on board, we have a lot of new followers coming through. Then I'll say to you, okay, we have 3 different messages here. I want your VA to go through a sample out of each of them. Let's test which is getting the best reply rate. And we're not just like hoping and praying and saying like, let's hope this goes well. Let's actually test everything, make sure it's perfect. And that's the beauty as well, where things that wouldn't be realistic with the time you have available to do things. When we have someone on board to do it, we can make sure it's done at like the highest standard possible. Then coming down, so something I've started doing recently, which has been really effective, and it's kind of made me see like retargeting ads a bit differently. Previously, I would have just seen retargeting ads as like, okay, they're in your audience, let's just like sell to them all the time, and always just have maybe like a blunt post about coaching spaces, which definitely do work and can be effective. But if they're the only thing that we're doing, I think we're missing a beat. So if you think about one of the most important things with posting content, 1, okay, it's the value that you share, etc. But 2, and I think most importantly, it's being top of mind in the person's place. So let's say if someone's interested in working with a coach and they go on their Instagram, you put up content and they see you. Yeah, maybe what you've actually said in the video, but 2, it could be actually just that you're top of mind to them. They know you and they're like, oh, there's Annabelle. I know she's a great coach. I've seen her results. And your post, they might have not even watched the whole thing or whatever, but because you're now top of mind, they may inquire, or if you send them an outbound message, there's a higher chance they reply. So seeing retargeting ads to our current audience who know us as how can we be top of mind and nurture these people even more?
We've actually, we've just started targeting now, and weirdly, my DMs today, I've got quite a few who I messaged back in like August, September time, literally DM'd me today. So it
Yeah.
just shows, doesn't it, that you can't just focus on like the immediate. You need to focus on 6 months down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that definitely need to do more, like, and more consistently as well, because this is the first time I think probably done that.
Yeah.
Really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And then as well, this will come down to like, okay, what kind of ads are we doing at like the different levels?
Yeah.
So like I spoke to just a second ago about the top of funnel. So if we're getting new people in, what we need to remember is like people don't, as I said, know you, like you, or trust you at this point. So if you start telling them about your own physique journey or about a client, in most cases, they don't really care. They only care about themselves.
Yeah.
So can we do something top of funnel to get people into our audience, which speaks about the problem they have where you're giving high value?
So these ones would be more like what potential, like just straight to the point and like an immediate problem that you can then fix.
Basically, so let's even take it back to you before you started with me. If you didn't follow me, didn't know me, and I had a reel going that was trying to get like new followers in, and I said, if you're currently working 9 to 5, you have coaching as a side hustle, you want to go fully online, this is the one thing you need to do. And I give you like a really good piece of advice, but I haven't tried to sell to you, I haven't done any CTA, you'll be like, oh geez, like a mentor who's actually giving really good advice, really spoke to the problem I have, hasn't tried to sell it to me, I think his content's going to be valuable, I'm gonna follow him. So we've built some trust, we've built some credibility. So obviously that was like a very niche problem. But even for people on a higher degree, can we speak to them? And now let's kind of keep using the example of you and me, because I think it'll work well. Now that you're following me, you're seeing some of my content. If I'm doing a retargeting ad to be top of mind for you, nurture you more, what we now need to understand is, because you've seen some of my content, you followed me, you have built up some form of like connection, or like you do have a degree of trust where it's more than you did on that first video. So now you potentially do care more about my clients or whatever. So now if on the retargeting ad I said, here's like my client X and Y, and they came to me doing X, now they're at a position they're doing Y. Now you're like, okay, so Connor, who I saw gave us really good value, now I'm kind of seeing some inspirational content about his clients. And that's like, Jesus. And now it's like, we have a warmer ad because it's a warmer audience.
For sure.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
So then that's another consideration for us. We don't have to necessarily always sell in ads. I could have that as the retargeting ad, and it could have been a result I put up 2 months ago. You just started following me, you haven't seen it, because I have it as a retargeting ad. Now you're kind of seeing it and you're being nurtured over time. So like for you, if you put up a client case study of Sarah, again, if a stranger sees that, they don't recognize you, they don't know Sarah, and it might just kind of go past them. Whereas if they're following you, they've seen that initial video and now they see you speaking about your client Sarah, they're more bought into it, and it's going to work at like a higher level. Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, that'll be with that. And then what I would say we would do for that, the retargeting, we could even do like 75, like 25 kind of split across the month. So we may even decide 75, like let's say the first 3 weeks of the month, let's just focus on nurturing and being top of mind. And so we'd do, so for example, we have our educational value-based reels, getting people in, change them up as we need, and when we see results. If we start February, I'd say, okay, for the first 3 weeks of February, I want this like client case study to be boosted to your current audience. We won't try sell to them, we'll just nurture them, be top of mind, we may get some interest. Now, for the last week of the month, which we know is around payday, etc., let's move it to more of a selling-based retargeting one. So we don't have it consistently running, but then for like the last week or 25% of the month, we'll say, okay, can we change it to maybe a similar video for you? So, but it's instead you're offering coaching, or it could be a program that you're launching, could be like a blunt post. Where, like, there's so many options we could do. We make it more selling based.
That's a good idea. Not done that.
Because let's say, for example, if we only did the selling one. So if we're looking for 5 women to do XYZ, and that was just our retargeting strategy the whole month, it's probably going to die quite quickly. Because as you said, your audience isn't like most people listening, our audience isn't like never ending. And pretty much everyone. So what's going to happen then? Oh, this person is coming up consistently trying to sell to me, and you drain out your leads to a point. So if we had a strategy where we're actually just nurturing and being top of mind for a small portion of the month, we then try to sell from a retargeting perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because like I've always said to you as well, it's typically in the month, like the beginning and the end is usually obviously the key dates.
Yeah.
And in the middle is always, it is quieter. And that's obviously a good strategy to have to, like, you might as well take advantage of those moments more rather than trying to push things really hard when it's just not, it's not naturally kind of going that way. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
And then this is the benefit as well with like this strategy. Obviously we could do it organically as well. So we could build hype, but then so we could decide. So for example, if we did like every second month, that January, for example, we did a promo launch.
Yeah.
Then February, it could only be a promo through ads. So you don't actually ever post it on your feed. We kind of keep it just as like an ad we run.
Okay. Yeah.
And then March, you might be like, hey, promo. So we'll do organic and ads.
Yeah.
And then April might be just like an ad end of the month again.
Yeah.
So we could even go from that, you're not constantly posting promos on your feed. We could do like back end ones where it's only going to be your current audience who see it.
Yeah. Like
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then as well, we can have options in when we retarget, being very specific about the people that we do it. So we could even have a strategy where we don't want people who have been following you for ages to see it. And maybe if we have a lot of people coming in, top of funnel, a lot of new followers coming through, you might say, okay, the people who've been following the last 30, 60, 90 days, I'm going to run this program for them.
Yeah.
But the other people I'm not, because they've been in my audience long enough. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So we can even be strategic who gets to see the promo.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds
okay. So then to your point, any questions with that?
No, that's clear.
Okay. So then on the content side of things. So for my personal opinion with your content, I actually really, really like what you do on Instagram. I think the biggest thing, if we were looking to like move forward for you as a personal brand and as a business brand, would be kind of diving into more like long form style of content.
Yeah.
Has that crossed your mind? Have you thought about that?
No.
Okay, cool.
Tell me more.
Why does it make you, the idea of it, are you like, oh, not for me? Or just like, when I say it to you, are you like, seems exciting? Are you like, no, I don't know if that's something that you'd want to?
No, I don't know, but I've not tried it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's important to like try things, right? So.
Okay. So again, kind of going back to that point I made about like email and Instagram, like I'd almost try to see everything as like a combination instead of just like one thing.
Yeah.
So would you say 90% of fitness coaches, rely solely on Instagram?
Yeah.
Same. And if you wanted to be in the top 5% of coaches in terms of revenue, which will be plus 50K months, getting to like 7-figure businesses, if we just focused on Instagram, could we get there? Yeah. But would we have a better chance of getting there by adding more strings to our bow?
Yeah.
So I would say Instagram, we have working and operating really well.
Yeah.
If we get into the email, which we know is going to have a really good combination effect with the thing. And then thirdly, what I would say to you is, can we get someone to see long form content of you where they really build a relationship in terms of like knowing who you are? I think that's hugely valuable.
Yeah.
Even just a personal one, like I got a coach followed me. She came through. I messaged her saying, hey, are you here for content or looking to scale your business? She said just the content, nothing else. Was quite, just content. Also like no emojis, she's quite, she wasn't vibing to the level I wanted. But I was like, okay, cool. Be like, I actually have some longer form content here. I sat down with my client Lucy. We went through kind of like her journey. The next day she messaged me saying, hey, I'm interested to know how you work. And that was her coming into the page, me not kind of like trying too much. She was here for content. I sent her long form. She sat down, maybe watched 30-40 minute video, seeing how I interact, seeing the value I give, getting to know me a bit more, getting to see how my client is. And that's going to build a lot of trust.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the kind of person that would invest the time into watching something like that is the kind of people that you need to come into the business as well. No, I mean, you want a blend of the people who are quick and the people who just need it now versus the ones who, when I invested in you, I looked through everything. YouTube's you, stalked your LinkedIn, like everything. Do you know what I mean? And I think the kind of person that you would want in the business, because that typically would be the kind of person who cares about their investment, who wants to make the right investment, who maybe wants something for the long term. That makes sense. Yeah,
100%. And then, so I would just kind of see it as like, as I said, kind of like another string to your bow. And it could even be, a few things. Like one, it could be podcast style where, you're just kind of getting on there, getting to know you. Other one, which I know is crushing it for one or two of my clients, is doing like YouTube, which is more like education based. So it could be you. So let's go back to the free thing that we give to people to nurture. We could get them on the email list. And maybe the first thing could be day one could just be like a free PDF resource that doesn't actually take a lot for them to do, so they can get the benefit from it. But we say at the end of the email, this time tomorrow, I'll be dropping you an email which actually has XYZ, where I go into things in a lot more detail. They watch that from you, brings it to maybe an unlisted link on YouTube, and it could be 15-20 minutes of you kind of going into detail on a specific area. So they were giving more value, but they're getting to know you in a lot more of a personal
I like that
way as well.
So
I think if we can, and again, it's one of those things that it's not like make or break, but when I look at you and I look at the potential you have, and I'm like, where we can kind of like build your personal brand, build Body by Bell. If we have some long form content coming in, I think it's going to be.
I think it's just like the professionalism and like credibility as well. Do you know what I mean? Again, when you're looking at people like business owners or, successful people that you want to attract to come on board with you, that's the kind of stuff that they want to see, So I think obviously the blend is important, but I've not done any of that at the moment. So I think it's definitely like untapped there.
100%. Because I think what you do really well is kind of showing up on your stories, having chat. So in terms of like building relationships, building connections on that kind of like immediate level, I think we have that like nailed pretty well. And then it's like, okay, how can we add to what we do? And then as well, the way I get you to see it is like in terms of like consistency for the business, which I know is hugely important for you with, especially just moving out of 9 to 5 and stuff. Instead of thinking, oh, like I need the strategy or I need this, actually just say like, I have like my Instagram crushed it. I have this avenue that crushed it. People are getting to see me everywhere and they're getting to know me more. And with that, you don't need a strategy because you'll always have people wanting to buy from you.
100%.
Which I think you've already seen in the short term. Okay, so in terms of, that's kind of through lead generation. That's with sales. I know you love sales calls and it's a part you're passionate about. But from like maybe like a pricing perspective, is that something? Is that something?
I don't like to up my prices.
How did I don't think you actually told me how that call went.
Closed it.
Did you? Did you actually?
Do you know what is interesting? I've been playing around with so I'm of the opinion of, I have a spot that I personally just want to stick to because I do want to be affordable. I want to make enough money, yes, but at the same time, I think you can get past the threshold where you are too expensive and you're missing out on a lot of potential. So I think there is that sweet spot. We've obviously played around with like the amount of months and things like that, which has been great. So what I did after our call, because I promised you that it wasn't that I wanted to do it, and I did up them slightly, but I went back to the 6 months. And that worked really well. And that's the first time I've gone over the 1K bracket as well. So like, we've obviously played around with months and stuff. So it's been still good. But it was sweet.
And you know what? I think that there's a good lesson there because I think sometimes you can build confidence. So let's say if you were selling a 1500 program and you're like, hey, I used to charge 1200. I'm going to start charging 1500, for example. Build confidence doing a 6-month program. And then you're like, hey, I can sell it for 6 months pretty easy. Can I see what the difference is going to be if I sell it for 5 months?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, hasn't actually made, no one actually cares, same thing, still closing, same amount of people. Then you do it for 4 months. And now all of a sudden you've increased your prices massively by, like we've done before. So like you've gone back to 6 months, happy for you to do that. Build your confidence there. And then we can look to do the same thing again.
Probably reduce it. I think that's what we did originally. If you remember, like the first paid in full that we started when I joined, was X amount for 6 months. And then we reduced it. And then now what I've done is to kind of, obviously improve in the immediate, we've gone back to 6 months and then up the prices. So it makes sense just to do that again and then reduce it once the confidence is there. I think it was like, but what you said to me was it's so right. It's like, you just got to try it. I was so kind of fixated in, no, this works for me. I'm obviously doing really well. but actually I was missing out on probably quite a lot because of that mindset. Do you know what I mean? And now I've tried it works, but equally we've also gone back to the one down payment and then the recurring as well, which was important for me to grow again after so many kind of paid in fulls. Yeah.
Being too wet selling.
Yeah.
First world problem. Too many paid in fulls. Okay, so with the sales calls, do you get much like people asking you, are they working with you? Are they working with their team? You haven't mentioned that massively to me, so I don't.
Weirdly, no, so the way that I sell it, and actually the way that I think has worked really well, is that I speak about the girls a lot on the sales call. So I tell the client about my story, about Francesca's story, about Sophia's story. So they already feel like we're a team of coaches. Yeah. I always talk to them about being a team of coaches.
Yeah.
And how we bring different things to the table. So I'm Sophia does yoga classes with the team. And then, Fran is an expert in high rocks. So it kind of brings that experience. Yeah. So I've never, the occasions where I have had someone at the end, and it's only happened twice, where they're like, I want to work with you. Then I have just increased the prices based on the fact that, okay, if you want to work with me personally, I'm not taking clients on, but I will take you on. Do you know what I mean? So, but literally I'm talking 99% of the time that approach has been fine.
Yeah.
But as you know, I'm still very present in the business. So I talk to the clients a lot.
Yeah.
I do the webinars, etc. So I feel like they're still getting a part of me.
Yeah.
Obviously I get questions on the calls, like who's doing my check-ins, for example. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, Fran will be doing check-ins.
Yeah.
And Sophia will be answering questions around this. I'll be doing this. And they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think for me, that's why it's important to build the brand, because I'm fully aware that I can't be that person forever. Do you know what I mean? And it's important for me to kind of keep my coaches up there as well. And I think the plan of action is to bring them into some of the content as well, to try and build us as a team rather than it just being me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And then I think it's striking that balance of giving them enough exposure where people get on calls and they know who they are, but also, to level or I think what a lesson I got told by a mentor, and I think it's true, you almost, if you do have coaches, you need to be good at sales, lead generation, and kind of marketing, and coaching. And if the coach has all of those areas they're good at, they could end up deciding to do it themselves. So it's kind of keeping one or two of them where you don't make them a specialist in that area and just put focus where in the areas you think will add value to the business.
Yeah. I think, 100%. I think there's obviously a fine line, because you want an amazing team of coaches, but you also
want loyal coaches.
Yeah, you want loyal. I think the one thing that I'm very honest with the team as well. They know how hard it is.
Yeah.
It's hard. And they also, there's overheads associated with running a coaching business, which they weren't even aware of before they maybe joined. So I think that balance can be difficult, but I also think that the coaches are obviously really important, and I want to keep the girls as long as I can, but I also am fully aware that if you build the business to a position where you create a standard of service, standards across the board, which we're all adhering to, and it's really, really clear.
Yeah.
It's, we can still get other coaches into the business and it runs correctly, and it runs how Body by Bell is supposed to run. So I think it's striking that balance between having the personalities and having, the coaches within the team, but also having those standards across the business to know that it can run seamlessly, without certain people as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And with the webinars you mentioned there, is that something you do weekly?
Monthly / kind of every couple of weeks at the moment. Okay. So these will be varying topics basically. Yeah.
Cool. So one thing that I think is actually going to be huge in 2025, I think you'll see a lot more of it, will be live webinars that kind of open up to people to join.
Yeah.
So even what we could look to do is, if we make that consistent with, let's say, 2 a month, and one of them is going to be clients only, and one of them is actually going to be kind of open to anyone.
Yeah.
So then again, when we kind of go back to retargeting ads, we could, if end of month we're trying to sell them coaching, middle of month maybe inviting them on a webinar which is about XYZ. and few options you could sell on at the end of that webinar. You could give an offer to any people who are on there. Or two, you obviously you'll have their data or where you can kind of message them after.
Yeah.
And it could be like offering them a free call because they made it to the end of the webinar.
Yeah.
So that could be another thing you leverage. You're already doing something inside the community that's working really well. When we think about long form content, building trust and giving high value at a deeper level, it could just be changing up our structure where one of them goes into, and then when it comes back to the system.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
We could, with the CRM we're building with you, there's a part fully on like live webinars. You can host a webinar through there, even create an opt-in page. We can get people in, get all their details, send them reminders beforehand. So I think, again, when we think about like building our business, it's always really important we do so in a way that, so like for you said to me numerous times how much you care about giving value, helping people as much as possible. So can you then think of a lead strategy, which is actually something you'll get a buzz off. So we're doing a live webinar. 50 people have come on who aren't clients. Hopefully they'll be future clients. But if not, I'm still giving something that really high value and impacting people.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something for us.
Yeah.
So that's the thing when it comes to like ads, we don't have to just follow what other people are doing. We can kind of like look at things and be like, hey, how can we leverage your audience in the best way possible?
I think that's important as well, because sometimes, I get sucked into, like, you see, obviously as a coach, you see so many other coaches and you see their vibe and you see what they're doing. I'm like, I can't do that because it's like, it's just not me. And I think that makes you start to question, like, am I ever like, is that a problem? Do you know what I mean? Whereas I look at add some stuff and it just makes me cringe and I just know that that's not me. So I think, but I also know that there's a reason why people come to me and it's other people as well. So I think it's about working on towards your own strengths rather than trying to follow the crowd, because the crowd is doing, lots of different things at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. True. Even like with Michael here, like I would always say, like when I'm filming content, sometimes you see people and they're quite like negative and quite polarizing in that way. Like it is super engaging, and like that's not my style, not my vibe. So if I try to be like really harsh or really negative, I said like, if you're not closing sales calls, it's because you're a fucking don't like. If I try that approach,
but I can't imagine you ever be doing that. It would look off. What you do
exactly. It would just wouldn't suit me. It would look off. So I like instead of just doing it because I'm like, oh, will that be more engaging or more polarizing, get more people's attention? It wouldn't be me, so it would just be off.
Yeah.
So as you said, there is enough people who will vibe with your vibe that just do you be authentically yourself 100%. And know how to leverage that in the right way and be smart with it. But like, don't like feel like you have to, because like we both see someone's content and you're like, why have you done that just because almost you think
it works so well for them, but that's obviously that's what they're gelling with.
Exactly.
But I think especially being like with this year, with it moving so quickly and it growing so quickly, I think I have questioned whether I am doing the right thing from time to time. Do you know what I mean? But I think the important thing is people will see if you try and change too much. They're going to see that. Do you know what I mean? So,
So true.
Yeah.
So true. And is that, with you kind of like scaling and growing, has that ever kind of come to your mind of like having that kind of like paranoia? Like, is that something you like with like current clients? I think you've dealt with it quite well, but have you ever felt, for other coaches listening who may be growing and maybe like feeling like, oh, I don't know what my clients will think or what like other people will think? Is that something that you've dealt with okay, or has that ever been on your mind?
I think before a lot of success came this year, I did care a lot more about what people thought on my like on my socials. Obviously I've got a lot of like old school friends on my socials and that kind of thing, and obviously I've changed my approach a lot on there this year. But I also think that the bigger you grow and the more successful you get, the more people won't like you. It's as simple as that. And I think letting go of that has been the biggest, like a huge thing for me this year. Like I'll get on my stories, I'll do stupid stuff, I'll say what I think, and it might annoy people or it might not upset people, but you know what I mean? Like people might be thinking that it's a little bit strange or whatever, but it's really worked for me this year, like just being myself. And there's so many clients who have come on board saying like, even like the random stuff that I post on my stories, that's usually the stuff that gets the most engagement. And sometimes it might be a bit controversial, or sometimes do you know what I mean? But that works for me. So I think you've got to let go of that. If you care too much about what the outside world think, or, you know, friends or whatever it might be, then you're going to struggle to really get, you know, grow to where you want to grow.
And then even on from that, what I think is huge is like, the more successful you get, you almost fear rejection less and less. And what I try to say, because I'd have a few clients when maybe it could be like DMing or like doing some form of offer, the fear of someone not replying, not saying yes. Let's say we hit next month a 30K month, best ever month. If I said to you, okay, how many people haven't replied to a message, said no to you on a call, wasn't interested in signing?
Millions.
There'd be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But the important thing is you couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Because you just had an incredible record-breaking month in the business. You're helping so many women. Your coaches are buzzing, working with more clients than they could ever imagine. Do you know, like, the impact that you're making with the people who do want to work with you, the money that you've made is incredible, that all that becomes insignificant. It's so insignificant.
I think,
So it's so important to like have that awareness that like, if you're kind of growing and scaling, even back to like your kind of old friends situation, it's like all those kind of people become way less significant when you're doing well.
It's like the one thing, I think, the initial rejection, like, do you remember at the start, like, when we started working together and I started to actually do sales calls properly and, getting paid in fulls and that kind of thing, the rejection can hurt quite a lot. Yeah. Now, I think you've literally got to let it go there and then, like, done, dusted, move on, next person. And I think because you're not going to be for everyone, and not everyone is going to be invested in you, whether that's client, you know, potential clients or friends or whatever it might be. But yeah, you're so right. Like, I think the fear of rejection massively becomes less, like, it's not even rejection anymore. It's like, okay, done. You know what I mean? But what I would say to that is, that's allowed me to grow so much quicker, because I think your mindset going into the next call or the next post or whatever it might be, people will sense that and see that.
And then,
you know what I mean?
When you back yourself enough as well, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, you almost feel sorry for them. Like, that's literally happened to me with people who haven't signed up with my mentoring.
100%. Yeah.
They just haven't made that step. They've just been too afraid and haven't made a leap. Instead of feeling bad for myself, I actually feel bad for them, because I'm like, oh, I know how much they might go for like a cheaper option or like a group style, and it may have made more sense for them. But I'm like, oh, if you just did it, I know, like,
you taught me they need you more than you need them. And I think that's so true. Like, at the start, when you're small and the numbers are small, like, every single call or every single interaction can hurt if it doesn't go your way. Whereas now, if you know you've got a great business, you know you've got a great service, you're getting the results, hundreds, like, you soon realize that, no, they really do need me more than I need them. And that will completely change the way that you do your sales calls. And it did for me as well, because I remember at the start, it was like, oh, you know, I want to do well. And then when it's flipped, you become much more powerful, like, in a moment.
It's even like, if you had a sales call, let's say on the 10th of this month, they didn't sign up, you would have still went to Dubai, still traveled business class.
From a talk about
still did all the nice things. So it's like, from your perspective, it's like, that person in a world where a lot of people are dragging you down, not kind of like pushing to be at the next level, for her to come into my world and be a part of that and get some of my energy of where I'm going in life, that would be hugely valuable to her. Her, obviously, I want to help that individual, but them not coming on board, as you said there, like, it's not going to change anything that I do or where I'm going to go.
Do you know what's funny as well is, I thought that as the business grows and people can see it on socials and that kind of thing, that our client base would be like, oh, about it, and like, oh my God, they are loving it. Like, they love the energy, they love the power, like, they, you know, women empowerment and all that jazz. Like, you know, they're so invested in my trip here. And I think initially people would be like, oh, that's icky. Do you know what I mean? But actually, like, they love the energy, they love that powerful energy. And I think that's important to remember as well, because I think some people might be fearful of what other people think within their client base. And it's actually the opposite. They want you to succeed because, and I always say to the team as well, the more referrals we get, the bigger the business grows, the more I give back to you. So now we're doing weekly yoga sessions completely included in the package,
Yeah.
etc. Like the more value, the more you help me grow, the more value, like the more you're going to get for your money, basically. So they're all like, referring and that kind of thing. So it's building that energy as well, making sure that they know there's something in it for them as well.
Everyone wins.
Yeah.
And I think, to be fair, I think it's quite a good closing line, but I think that's just a testament to you in terms of your service, your personality, what you do for clients, that they want you to win as much. Because to be honest, that's definitely not the case for every business.
Yeah.
And people have experienced the opposite. So like, as I said, that's a testament to who you are as an individual, how you've helped so many people and the service you have, that they're that happy for you.
Thanks.
Lovely. Wrapped up.
Are we done?
Yeah. We're done.
Amazing.